on creating a codebook. This is the new version because the previous version didn't export properly. And the reason that we create codebooks is because sometimes when we look at our data sets, we see variables with names like Q295 or um, Q100 or maybe just a random series of letters. And so we don't know at a glance, or we can't easily remember what those variables really are. Like for example, maybe Q295 is actually a question about extroversion, and maybe Q100 is actually a question about introversion. And maybe when I first made the experiment, I could remember what all those numbers mean, but like a week later, a month later, a year later, I'm not going to remember what all that means. And so I need something like a code book that tells me what all these variables really are. And sometimes you'll hear this called a data dictionary. Um, but we're going with Codebook, and our version of the Codebook is going to be a little bit more than just a dictionary. It's going to include information about the means, the standard deviations, the kurtosis, the range, the distributions of all our variables. And this is extremely helpful because what it means is later on, it will be easy for us to identify problems in our data set and then make the proper adjustments. Now, when I program anything in R, I always start with an old or a previous document I've already written, because I'm going to do a lot of copying and pasting. As I've said before in this class, you shouldn't be thinking that your job here is to memorize all the code we do. Instead, your job is to know how to find the code you need and also to know how to use the code available to you. So, after today's video, you should know how to create a code book, and not because you've memorized all this code, but because you know how to find the document you just created and to copy and paste from it. So let's begin. We're going to start with a new, R notebook. And we get this nice document on the left. It has all this template code, which you can just delete. And we'll start by changing the metadata. This is just data about the document itself. So like the title of the document, we can change to Learn R, Create Codebook, and a type of output. So what is going to be the product that we create? In this case, we're going to make a web notebook. So HTML, web, notebook. We're going to have a theme called paper. You could change that to something else if you want. You can change it to like Space Lab. There's actually, you can look up all the different ones that you can create here. Another one that's pretty good is I think called Darkly. And so we'll create a table of contents. That's what TOC stands for. And we'll have a table of contents float, which just means that it is always available on the screen. So I will save this document. I'll just save it in my downloads folder, and we'll call this codebook example. And next we'll add, as all our documents will have, a load packages section. So we'll load the packages, and we'll make this a tab set. And that just means that, or I'll say this, I'll go back one step. So we put a pound sign in front. That means that load packages is going to appear in the table of contents. Then we add a tab set, and that means if we put 2 pound signs, everything that shows up is now a tab in that section. So first we want a Haven tab. And I'm not going to type all this out. I'm just going to copy all this code. So I'm going to Control C, Control V. Here's the code. I'm going to run it. We got that nice green bar, so it looks like everything worked. So I'll press preview. And in preview, we get this nice document. We got the title, we've got the first section, load packages, and then we've got Haven in a tab. And we've got this Darkly theme. So if I change this to like Space Lab and I run it, we get a different theme. But let's go with Darkly for now. All right, next we wanted to load the tidyverse. So let's load the tidyverse. And again, note the double pound sign so it gets its own tab. And we've got to add the words tidyverse. Okay, so let's throw that in there. Tidyverse is actually a collection of packages, so not just one package, so it takes a long time sometimes to load. I'll press preview. And now we've got Haven as a tab and tidyverse as a tab. So everything's going well so far. And now the package we'll actually use today the most, and that is summarytools. So summarytools is how we actually create the codebook. You can see the name of this package makes sense, right? It's a tool, or it provides tools to help us summarize our data. So I will press play on that. This is also a big package as well. so it may take some time. Oh, and sometimes if it looks like a package is not loading, in this case it was fine. Sometimes if a package is taking a long time to load, R might be asking you a question in the console. So you can just remember to check the console, and there might be a question for you to answer, and you'll say yes or no. But this one seemed fine. Again, we'll press preview, make sure everything's looking good. So we've got Haven, tidyverse, and summary tools, all nicely organized. Perfect. So now we need a section of our data called import data. So, or a section of our code called import data. So let's make that section. Now this will be a new section of the table of contents. So we'll put a single £, import data. And in this case, we will be loading the SPSS data file. And the reason we load the SPSS data files is because the SPSS data files have more information in them. Like they actually contain their own code books. It's a really nice feature of SPSS. And we're going to sort of recreate that functionality here with the codebook code. So I've got no name of this file. So let's grab the file from OSF. This will be the Harry Potter data.sav. And I will download. It goes right into my downloads folder. So I've saved my notebook, my codebook example file, and my data file in the same folder on my computer. So I should be able just to type Harry Potter data.sav. Make sure that's the name. That looks like the right name. So let's see if this works. All right, so we got that green bar, it went away, but let's just confirm that we really loaded in that data. So I'll go to environment, and we see, yeah, data set, 122 observations, 90 variables, perfect. Now, maybe you don't want to save the data in the same location on your computer, so you can actually copy the link to the data, and that avoids the hassle of trying to make sure everything's saved in the proper spot. So let's try this out here. Let's see if we can do this. All right, so we downloaded, the green bar showed up, went away. It still says 122 observation of 90 variables. Perfect. So this will be what we'll go with. So let's go back to our create codebook example that we're going to copy from. And we can see the code over here on the right. Now we're in the actual codebook section. So the section called codebook. So let's make this section here. Oh, and I do want to do one more thing before I do that, though. I just want to press preview to save the work and then make sure everything's loading up properly. So now we have two sections in our document. We've got load packages, we've got import data. We can see them right here. Everything's looking good. So now let's add the codebook section. So a single £, so it will get its own section in the table of contents. And we've got this one chunk. So let's see if we can do this here. All right, so what does this code chunk do? Well, first we have a comment. And a comment's not code, it's just a reminder to myself of what this line does. So this line selects the variables you want to use in, or you'd like to summarize. So I know we have to pick coin flip. Everyone has to pick coin flip, but then people are allowed to choose different ones. So I think we can go FFM, and I'll pick 5. But remember, you can't do the same examples that are listed in the assignment on Canvas. And I also got to pick a Harry Potter one. So I'll just pick maybe this one. So just pick 2 random questions. So FFM stands for 5-factor model. These are personality, big 5 personality questions. And Potter stands for Pottermore questions. These are questions drawn from the Pottermore website. So we are starting with data set, and then, that's what this symbol means here. Percent greater than percent means then. So start with data set, then we select the variables coin flip, FFM5, and Potter 7, and we save them into a data frame or data set, or I guess data frame is the right word, called example df. So let's just run that code just to see that it worked. So I run it, the green bar comes and goes, I check my environment, and I have a new variable called example df, so example data frame. I click it, and it has just 3 variables. The 3 variables are coin flip, FFM5, and Potter 7. We can see that coin flip is participants flipped a coin and told us whether it was heads or tails. We can see that FFM5 is, I see myself as someone who is original, comes up with new ideas. So that's probably a question about openness to experience. And then Potter 7. So 4 boxes are placed before you. Which do you open? And I think I can't remember what they are, but one box is like something that a Gryffindor would like. One box is something that a Hufflepuff would like, and so on. Okay, so we've got our code book, and so that first line works. We select the variables we want to summarize. So then we have the second line, which just prints everything out. And so this is a line you don't want to change. You want to get it exactly right. So there's a print command. You can see that. There's this df summary command or function. That's the key one. That actually does all the work. And so basically this says summarize whatever is in example df, and we know that's these 3 variables. And then we're going to magnify it or shrink it down a little bit so it looks a little bit better. And render, I believe, means just make it a web page. So let's try this out. We'll press play. We can see the codebook right here, and it looks kind of not great. But if we push preview, it should look much better. Yeah, it looks much better in the website, right? So as a web page, this looks much better. What we get is we get the variable name, coin flip. We get the question that was asked, so awesome. We get some stats like the mean, the min, the max. We get the frequencies. We get a graph. That's awesome. And we see how many missing and how many valid responses there were for all of these questions. So this is just excellent information. And so we can use this information to, figure out like maybe one question has like 90% missing. Well, that's a question that maybe we shouldn't be analyzing, right? Because something went wrong during the experiment. Or we might look at the graphs. Like for example, this FFM5 graph, this distribution looks like a normal bell curve, or pretty close at least. And so that looks fine. And this one here, though, this Potter 7 one, it doesn't look like a normal distribution. It looks flat. But actually, maybe that makes sense because, probably what this is saying is basically that about a quarter of the people pick each house, right? So a quarter of people want to be in Gryffindor, a quarter of people want to be in Slytherin, a quarter want to be in Hufflepuff, a quarter want to be in Ravenclaw. You can see one house is less popular, number 3, I don't know which that was, and one house is more popular, number 4, and I don't know what that was, but we could figure that out. But nonetheless, this is maybe a variable that we don't expect to be normally distributed, and it's not, so that's fine. All right, and that's the whole assignment right there. So if you can get this nice graph, or sorry, this nice table in your output, then you're doing good. And just for fun, I'll just try a couple of different themes for you so you can pick one that you like. So here's Space Lab. And so Space Lab, maybe you don't like the dark theme, you like this theme. And I think my favorite one, at least when I originally made this assignment, was paper. So let's check out paper. And I think, I mean, not much of a difference between paper and Space Lab, but there might be some subtle differences that you appreciate. Okay, so that's it for this. If you have any questions, let me know via Canvas. But good luck on this assignment, everybody.